All right, welcome to GothCast, episode 31. I am Dr. Sanders.
And this is Robbie Gore.
All right, today we're going to have another movie episode.
Yep, we haven't done one in a while. We figured it was about time.
Yeah, we're going to do Dracula.
Yep, can't go wrong with that. And it lines up perfectly. This is episode 31, and we're going to begin with Dracula 1931.
That's right. So we're basically just going to be doing films that are based off of the novel or the story of Dracula.
Yes.
Now, if you don't know, just a little bit of backstory on the actual story of Dracula, just in case you want any context for it. So,
Yep.
Dracula is obviously a gothic horror novel.
Yep,
It's
written by Bram Stoker.
It's written like a diary.
Yeah, basically like clippings from a journal that are stitched together.
Mm-hmm. And tells the story, obviously, of Count Dracula and everything. It was published May 26th, 1987. That's the day after my birthday.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So we'll talk about some of the differences in the movie adaptations and the novel. But just to give you some context, it's 1897. There is, of course, Nosferatu, which was released in, I think it was 1920.
Yeah.
It was the 1920s.
Technically, that is
Yeah.
the first Dracula movie.
Yeah, but it wasn't authorized by Bram Stoker's estate. And actually, the only reason Nosferatu, the film, survived as long as it did is because Bram Stoker's, I think it was his wife, wanted all the prints of it gone because it was obviously an unofficial.
Yeah.
They didn't license the story. They basically just stole the story of Dracula and then changed it a little bit. But she ordered all the prints to be destroyed, and then like some print showed up later, and then it became like one of the most famous movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because it was almost gone. But 1931, we have Dracula come out, and this is the Universal picture.
Yep.
Starring Bela Lugosi.
This is probably one of the most famous depictions of Dracula.
I would say it's definitely the most referenced one.
Yeah.
And even without knowing it,
Definitely. People see the image of Bela Lugosi all the time with his arm and his cape, wrapped against his shoulder.
Well, yeah, and also every single vampire is, every vampire stereotype
Yep.
comes from this Dracula.
Yep.
Well, hello, I'm Dracula. The Count from Sesame Street is a parody of Bela Lugosi.
Yep.
Just
1, 2, 3.
yeah, all these things reference Bela Lugosi, and people put on Dracula cape, and what's the first thing they do? I am Dracula,
Yep.
and they don't even, a lot of people,
I don't even think twice about where that comes from.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, vampires talk this way.
yeah, and so, it could also be, affected Romania, but
yes,
but
he's trying to do a Romanian accent, but he's also, yeah.
he's a Hungarian,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, it's a very famous depiction. And so it's 1931, obviously very early in film. A lot of people, I think, tend to associate this more with like the 50s or 60s, but no, it's 31.
Yeah, I think the reason for that is, I don't know, for me, it's a film that's very ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it's not without any flaws, but I find this movie to be really enjoyable with a few exceptions.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, some people might reference this from, think about this in terms of like the 50s is also because I think, one, people don't really have context of like,
Yeah, I know,
film
they see
from
black
then.
and white, and they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, 50s, right?
Yeah, but then also Dracula and all the Universal monster movies were released to television in the
Yep.
50s, and then they got like a boost from like in popularity all then. So there's a lot of stuff from Dracula that was released in the 50s.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd mention that. But let's get right into it. So directed by Todd Browning, and of course starring Bela Lugosi,
Yep.
Helen Chandler, David Manners, Dwight Frye. Oh man, Dwight Frye's so good in this. But
It's based off the 1924 stage play,
Yeah,
Dracula.
they didn't want Bela Lugosi to be Dracula, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, they I guess because of like heavy accents and everything, they were trying to find somebody to be in films because it like studios didn't work the same way they do today.
No,
Like-
not at all.
Especially with early film, a lot of it was stage actors. They need to find somebody who could do like the lines or something like that. Especially
Now it's the reverse. Like, real actors go to Broadway when their careers dry up.
that's true. That's very true. Yeah, but yeah, they're pulling from the play. And so Bela Lugosi was starring in Dracula the play and basically immortalized the character once he got into film.
Yep.
And one thing I gotta say right off the bat is I know that Swan Lake, the song,
Yeah.
is like, the famous
Mm-hmm.
like Dracula song. But you also have to remember that like this is really early sound film.
Yeah.
I think it was like 1928 was really when sound film hit the market. So it's only 3 years later, and a lot of this movie is silent. Like there's just, I mean, it's not necessarily silent, but there's nothing going on. Like, there's people just acting.
Yeah.
There's like reactions and, but the lines are memorable, of course.
I think that a lot of the dialogue, at least from Bela Lugosi, is very memorable and it's a really solid performance. Some of the other characters aren't as memorable, and I think that's part of the reason why this movie, might not be as popular as it could be.
Yeah, well, you have Dwight Fry as Renfield. And
Yeah.
my God, he is so good.
Oh, he's great.
He's like, it literally is a toss-up for me as to whether or not I like, I mean, I love Bela Lugosi's depiction of Dracula, but when Renfield is on the screen, he just steals the performance. Like the transformation, he goes from like a normal kind of guy in the beginning to a total maniac.
Yeah.
is amazing, and he pulls it off so well. Dwight Fry is a great actor.
He can go in and out of like his weird, like psychosis. He'll like come out of it to like give them some information randomly. Of course, it's very convenient to the plot.
Yeah,
kind of sink back into psychosis. And
it's really cool.
But yeah, he does a really good job as Renfield. I will say, I find that Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing to be a little underwhelming in this movie.
Yeah. It is funny because it is again kind of like a lot of later things would pull from kind of how Van Helsing is in this film.
Yeah.
One of the examples I think is Count Duckula's von Goosewing.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same sort of character, like, he wears the same kind of clothes and stuff. But he's just like suspicious, like there's just kind of that character, but that's kind of all he has going for him. But
he just doesn't have like a lot of great dialogue, and he doesn't have like the same, I don't know, especially when we get to the Hammer Horror Dracula, like the authority that you see in Van Helsing in those series of movies. This Van Helsing is a much more kind of passive Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm. And as far as differences from the novel, there are some changes.
Yeah.
You have, I feel like there's a bigger focus on Renfield than there is actually on John Harker in this one.
Definitely. There's a huge emphasis placed on the fact that he's no longer himself anymore. He's been taken over by Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
He's slipping in and out of sanity. He's been, collecting worms and spiders and things to eat, and he's really just kind of losing it. And he's constantly walking around, and he's got the whole like maniac look going, where his hair's like all wet and soaked and like sliding down his face, and he looks like he's gonna kill you.
Yeah, exactly. John Harker, I gotta say, doesn't have as much of a big role in it. I mean, he's just kind of like peripherally there. I mean, yeah, he is like the main character, but as compared to everybody else, he
kind of always is though in like most depictions.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Even with some of the later ones we're going to be talking about, especially one, but yeah, you'll see what
Dracula.
Dracula. We're gonna get to it. It's gonna be really funny. But I think the changes that they made, for the time, I mean, it's closer than I thought it would be. I mean,
it's closer than the Hammer horror film depiction of Dracula. Do I think it's necessarily better? No.
I think it's such a hard thing because like the later versions of Dracula, like for the time, this is a pretty amazing movie. Like you got to think about the perspective of when this was.
No, I'll give it that. I have to admit, every time I watch this, I'm definitely reeled in. I'm not like watching the clock, waiting for this movie to end. I feel like it's paced very well for its time, and I feel like really the main thing that I feel like where it suffers for me is its ending. It just feels very abrupt.
The ending is, I mean, I don't know, we'll spoil it, I guess, but I mean,
spoiler alert for a 1931 movie.
The movie just ends like really abruptly. Van Helsing and all of them are chasing Dracula, and like he's in his coffin, and they like basically run up, he's just asleep, and they stake him, and it just ends like right there.
Yep.
Like 30 seconds after, like you hear the scream, and then
Movie's over.
John
Roll
and Mina are
credits.
walking away, and that's it. And yeah, I mean the movie's only like an hour and 20 minutes or something. I think like at the longest cut. But yeah, it ends super abruptly. But that's pretty like of the time.
I know. I guess I just want more from the ending because I feel like they did a lot more with the rest of the film. You know, like a lot of other films from that time period kind of would have been more similar to the ending of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I felt like the rest of the movie was, I don't know, really advanced, really ahead of its time, more reminiscent of movies that would come out in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, the architecture and stuff is like crazy. Like, it's like really, really, really good set design and everything.
The bad effect is
pretty bad, pretty dated. It definitely is like a really fake toy.
Does
bad.
not hold up.
Yeah, but then they keep a lot of the, you know, traditional things like, what is it like? Is it like wolfsbane or whatever? Like repels him. They keep the mirror. Can't see the
instead of garlic.
Yeah,
because originally garlic does not. Hurt Dracula.
It's wolfsbane.
Yeah,
but then and they have it because he can transform into a wolf. Like that's the whole thing. And they reference. I don't think they show him as a wolf, but they
talk about him being a wolf.
Yeah,
and if you hear wolves.
Yeah, it's like he's like they hear him like walk away and like, oh my gosh,
I saw
there's a wolf.
Run away,
there's also the really goofy like medical people, which is kind of funny. It's like the comedic relief.
Oh yeah,
it's like
a husband and wife who run the mental ward or whatever.
It's really funny.
And Renfield keeps getting out of the mental ward for some reason.
They don't even explain like, oh, he got out again. Yeah,
he just walks into the room constantly.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff in this film, but I'll give it a break. I will say the editing for today, some people are going to be like, what is going on? Like the editing is really, really abrupt at points. And the fact that they reused that shot of Dracula staring like a million times.
Yeah.
It's his famous gaze, but I mean, man, it's like you see it so many times.
I know.
But yeah, this movie is really classic. You can find it so many different ways. I would say give it a shot if you're actually interested to see where basically everyone else was influenced to pull from. Yeah. I mean, it's not super close to the book. I mean, it's close enough to where you could recognize it. You know, even if they changed names or something like that.
It's closer than a lot of other versions.
Yeah. But it does have its moments where it's just dated. Like if you're not into black and white movies, this isn't gonna be one of those movies where you're like, oh, I'm so engaged. It's like a modern movie today. You have to like, go into the mindset of being like, this is a movie made in 1931 when sound first came out. Yeah. Because it's just silent most of the time. I mean, it's like, I never drink wine. It's like, just quiet. Like, you know?
Yeah. No, you do have to go into it with a certain expectation. It's definitely not a modern film. Yeah. You know, it has, these features of a 1930s movie. However, that being said, I feel like it holds up a lot better than a lot of other 1930s films.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the choice of the actors really helped.
Yeah, it sucks that Bela Lugosi, was really frowned upon by Hollywood, and a lot of it, has to do with his, drug addiction, and lots of different things were going on with that. But it really is a great performance from him in this movie. Just really just captivating just to see him as Dracula and just his gaze and there's so much that he does without even speaking, just his mannerisms and the way he walks and the way that he kind of like almost glides across the room. And I feel like that's such a great depiction of Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I also want to mention a few little pieces of trivia about this movie. One is that there was a lot of censorship of this movie about the certain amount of violence and things like that.
Yeah, and for the record, we mean violence by 1930s standards.
Yeah. So the I think the most famous edit that they did was when he kills Renfield. Yep. And like falls down the stairs. Is like that's been cut in a whole bunch of versions.
Like apparently that was too graphic to show someone falling down.
Even
the stairs.
on like VHS or like Betamax, like that, like it's cut too. It's like I think you don't even hear a scream. It's like you see Dracula walk up to him. But yeah, most of the Blu-rays and stuff put it back in, and And then also there is a Spanish language version of Dracula.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Definitely worth checking out. I would actually say probably maybe more interesting between the two of them.
I would.
It's a tough call.
It's really tough because they're different. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so basically, the English-speaking cast would come in and they would film. You know, they have their whole crew, separate crew and everything.
Yep.
Come in and film English language version of Dracula.
During the day.
Yeah, and then at nighttime, like the late evening, and then nighttime, the Spanish cast and crew would come in and shoot the same exact movie,
Same scene, same set.
everything, but completely in Spanish.
Yep.
And they have all new cast. It's not like Bela Lugosi went and learned Spanish and went and did this. So they have the Dracula in that one is much more expressive.
Yeah.
He's not as like suave, you know, he's more like manic. And the costumes are a lot racier.
Yep.
They have women showing their chests very openly, and in some ways, some people think that version is actually a little bit better because the performances aren't so stilted. You know, they're almost like, you know, just more expressive.
I think that's what I enjoy about that film.
Yeah.
But yeah, the English speaking version still harkened classic.
Yeah. Oh, and then the camera moves a lot more in the Spanish one. Like, it's more like station. It's more like American way of filmmaking at the time.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just different. But actually, a lot of the versions of Dracula, if you actually buy like the Blu-ray and stuff, they come with the Spanish language version. So 2 for 1 on most of those. Just check to see if it's in special features. But, but yeah, Dracula 1931. I mean, it's a good movie. Like, yeah, I would say give it a shot if you're.
I definitely recommend it. It's not the best film in the world. You know, don't go into this thinking you're seeing like some modern classic or something. Like it is a classic, but it's a film of its time.
Yeah. So check it out. Okay, so this is going to be recent interesting goth stuff,
AKA Riggs.
And today we have basically 2 new things that are coming out or slated to come out that we thought we'd talk about. One of them is kind of more like lighthearted sort of thing, but we thought it was really, I don't know, I thought it looked cool. I forget when the trailer just came. The trailer just came out, and it's called Monster Truck.
Yeah,
and
Monster Trucks.
Yeah, and so
it literally is about monsters in trucks.
Yeah, not monster trucks. The thing that
not the white trash thing. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, it's about basically this creature that. Who's that guy? The guy from Supernatural, right?
Yeah, it's the actor. I don't know his name, sadly, even though I've seen every episode of Supernatural more times than I care to admit.
Okay.
It's the actor who plays Sam on Supernatural. And so when I watch this trailer, I keep thinking, where's Dean? Where's Dean? Where is he? Crossover.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I want to cover it, because Robert's such a big fan of Supernatural. But this actually looks really fun, kind of lighthearted, just kind of stupid movie where this creature likes to be a truck and becomes a monster truck.
Well, it likes to work on the trucks with Sam first. I'm just going to refer to him as Sam. And then it likes being the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Be one with the truck.
And then the government comes after them. And then apparently there's more of these monsters.
I feel like it spoiled a lot already in the trailer, by the way.
More monster trucks, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's spoiling a lot. But I feel like it's definitely one of those movies where they feel like they're taking a risk, so they're just kind of showing people the entire movie before it even comes out. Kind of like what they did with Terminator Genesis, where they basically showed all of the plot twists in the movie in the trailer. So yeah, it looks cool. I mean, I thought it looked cool. It's slated for a January 2017 release.
Yep.
And
it definitely looks like it's going to be a fun, quirky, it's going to be kind of stupid, but it looks fun.
Yeah. So check that out. And then in other bigger news, we have basically news of a new Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds album.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool.
Yep. It's going to be
called Skeleton Key. And it's going to be released in September along with a concert film, which is pretty cool. It's
going to be called One More Time with Feeling.
Yeah. So It's their first album in like 3 years. So the movie's gonna be released in September, at like a day
before the album's released.
Yeah, so you can basically go check out the film and then buy the album the next day.
You get all in the mood to buy a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds album, and then one comes out, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go buy it.
Yeah, and then you could be like, oh, I'm so Instagram famous, or I don't know how that works. Is that how it works? Do you do things like that? Okay, well, yeah, I'm excited for this. I mean, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds do such a wide variety of music that
who knows what this album's gonna be.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a return to the really dark style for them and everything. Not that any of the stuff is ever generally extremely happy.
Yeah.
That's like one thing which I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be dark. I'm like,
how dark?
Pretty much all of his stuff is dark.
I mean, in timbre, in musical style.
Yeah, here's the press release has this quote. It will delve into the tragic backdrop of the writing and recording of the album. And oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that it was Nick Cave's son died. So
oh yeah.
Yeah, so this might be pretty screwed up in that way.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really sad. I think didn't we cover that when that actually happened?
In case we didn't cover it, Nick Cave's son died.
Yeah, son Arthur, he fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And yeah, really sad. So that album is just a few months away. And yeah, I guess look forward to it. And then check out Monster Truck. Just check out the trailer. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, God. Oh, by the way, Sharknado 4 is coming out.
Yeah.
They're most excited for that.
There's also Therapy for Vampires, which kind of looks interesting.
Yeah. That one looks really good, actually. Therapy for a Vampire.
Yeah.
Therapy for the Vampire, I think.
Is it Therapy for a Vampire or Therapy for Vampires? Therapy for a Vampire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So look up Therapy for a Vampire.
It's like a husband and wife married for 400 years.
500.
500.
Obviously,
okay.
400 easy. 500 is the hump.
And they're having marital problems now. They're like both seeing other people.
Yeah, it's really...
Looks like the husband is like seeing Freud or something.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. So, yeah, just check out all that stuff. And
I don't mean by seeing, like he's dating
No,
Freud.
he's seeing Freud. It's therapy.
Yeah.
But yeah, just check out all that. It's a lot of fun stuff looks like it's coming out. And it's good because, before we know it, it's going to be October and everything. So, yeah. This has been Riggs. And let's get back to movies.
All right.
All right, now we're on to Dracula.
Well, we're on to the Horror of Dracula.
Yeah, well, let's retitle that for the American audience. I think
it is originally called Dracula.
Yeah.
1958. This is directed by
Terrence Fisher.
Yep. And it is produced by
Hammer.
Yes.
Hammer Horror. So this is what a lot of people see as some of the best horror movies ever made. In the 1950s, Hammer started basically doing their own adaptations of
basically all the Universal monsters.
Yeah, so they did Dracula, they did Frankenstein, they did
Mummy.
Yeah, they did the Mummy, they did Wolfman, they did it's called the Gorgon. They did like Medusa and stuff. They have a whole bunch of them, and they also made sequels to a ton of them. So they basically made franchises out of these. For
Dracula, probably the largest sequel base.
It's pretty close. I think
that or Frankenstein.
Either that or Frankenstein, because Mummy only has like 4 movies, I think. So this was really what people see as one of the best Dracula movies and one of the most classic.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's a tough call. I definitely like this movie a bit more than I like the 1931 Dracula. 1931 Dracula, I feel like has a little bit more, I don't know, style and class to it. I like the word you use, suave, to describe it. But this movie is a little more rawness. Van Helsing has so much more presence. He's this big, power character who just storms in and listen to me, do what I say, constantly has somewhere to be. He's always walking out of rooms. I have somewhere to be.
Yeah, I know. That's I want to talk about that. But yeah, this movie is really the Van Helsing movie. And
it is because Christopher Lee does not really speak in it except for the opening.
Yeah, I think he says something like 13 lines. So Dracula only says like 13 lines, and they're within think like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then he never says anything again.
And then the next movie he's in, he doesn't speak in at all.
And,
That's a different story. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're planning on doing a whole thing on Hammer Horror, but we have to watch all of them.
Yes, there are a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
But yeah, so this is one of the first Dracula films that really kind of changes the book a lot.
Yeah.
So we have Jonathan Harker, who gets killed immediately.
Turns into a vampire like in the first few minutes, and then Van Helsing.
Van Helsing goes to find him. I guess they're working together to bring down Dracula.
Yeah.
And then Van Helsing just kills him.
Yeah. And then there's
Dracula scurries away.
Yeah, there's this whole thing about like Arthur and Mina are like his brother, like Jonathan Harker's brothers and sister, and then Lucy.
Lucy is Harker's fiance or wife. I'm not sure.
I think it's his fiance.
And then, yeah,
it's just they adjust a lot of things from the book. So if you're trying to follow it like exactly like the book, it's a little confusing. So just keep in mind.
It's fiance.
Okay, yeah. So if you're really familiar with the book, then they do change.
And so you have Arthur Homewood and you have Mina, who are taking care of Lucy, and they're brother and sister-in-law of Harker's fiance Lucy.
Yeah. So
Yep.
There you go. This version of Dracula, I would say it holds up pretty well, and I think for especially for a movie from 1958.
Yeah, I think it definitely appeals to a much more modern audience than necessarily the 1931 Dracula will.
Yeah, and that's mostly because of the performance. And now, the characters of Jonathan Harker and all that, they're okay. Like they're kind of your standard Hammer actors, like they're just there to kind of be distressed and die.
Peter Cushing really carries this movie.
Exactly. And that's why Peter Cushing was in so many Hammer movies, is because he was a really good actor with extremely good screen presence. And this is a prime example of that. Every time he's on screen, he steals the show, and you're only watching him even when he's interacting with everybody else. And yeah, he basically cemented this character of Van Helsing for himself.
And Christopher Lee does a great depiction of Dracula. Once he kind of gets past his whole "I'm not going to speak on film" thing, that's when his character, it feels like, becomes more memorable. Yeah,
that's it's hard to say because yes, he is a very good Dracula. Like he's a much more aggressive Dracula than Lugosi was, and much more like he hisses and stuff. He's like,
in this movie, I feel like Lugosi, like if you depict this movie's Dracula against Lugosi wins. But I feel like as the series continues and you have more and more sequels made, I feel like Christopher Lee becomes a more interesting Dracula.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's just Dracula's imposing, but I don't know. Peter Cushing is just such a badass.
He does steal the show a bit.
Yeah. As far as the look and everything and the music of that, they have the oh man, I want to always say typical Hammer stuff, but then people might not know what that is. But it's
very saturated.
Yeah, it's the blood is probably the most famous thing from it, or in the sets.
It's like an orange red blood.
Yeah, it's like the cherry red blood, and that's like the Hammer staple. Every bit of blood is like super ridiculously colored. It's like really, really red or really bright orange or something like that. And the sets are completely insanely gothic. Yeah. And like, giant castles and inns and all this stuff. And, everybody's is a very costumed film. And that's what people associate with these movies. And it all looks really great. I mean,
it does. I think that's part of what draws me into the Hammer Horror series more than the 1931 film, is that I like the look of it more. Yeah.
And also, the one thing I want to say is the Dracula theme. So there's the Dracula's theme that's used in most of the Dracula Hammer movies. But if anybody's wondering, if you heard it, it goes dun dun dun. Yeah. Dun 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 dun. And I guess what the music writer did, like the composer, when they were composing the Dracula's theme, were like, okay,
Like took the consonants from the word Dracula
and then made it into the song. So it goes, now whenever you think of that, like I can only ever hear Dracula, Dracula,
and that just repeats anytime you see Dracula on film.
Yeah. And the next movies, it's definitely a used theme. So it's hard to say if there's any weaknesses in this film.
I think that if they could have convinced Christopher Lee to speak a bit more, that I think is a little bit of a weakness for this film. He does, hiss and stuff, but I feel like he could have done more.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think he...
I'll just come out and say it. So the next film that he's in is Dracula Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
And in that film, he has no lines. And
that movie kind of is not good.
Yeah. And the writer states that he didn't put any lines in because he wanted Dracula to be a mysterious figure, but Christopher Lee has come out and said that he saw the script and just refused to read any of it because he said it was all crap.
Yeah. That's so funny. Love Christopher Lee. Did a metal album. It's crazy. Spilled the blood of the whatever, yeah. Saxons. I spilled the blood of 1,000 Saxons or whatever. But yeah, this is totally a classic movie. This is actually, if you want a little bit of trivia on this too, is when Tim Burton was doing Sleepy Hollow. I know a lot of our fans are fans of Sleepy Hollow.
Yep.
This is where he was pulling from. For Hammer Horror, he wanted the same kind of sets, the same kind of looks, the foggy weather, the bright blood.
Definitely achieves that.
Yeah, and as far as this one, they don't really go super gory yet.
No, not entirely.
This is still 58.
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta remember.
Yeah.
And this movie, I think, got basically the equivalent of like an X rating when it came out.
Yeah.
So they had to edit some things out, and there's when Peter Cushing basically kills Dracula. I guess spoiler for the 1958 film.
Spoiler for all Dracula films. Dracula always dies.
Dracula dies. But so Peter Cushing basically kills him with using sunlight, using cross and then using sunlight.
Yep.
And so Dracula basically turns into ashes, and then
his face melts off. Like a Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of way.
And there was actually more footage to that. It was and it was cut out, and it was just put back. I think like a year or two ago. And it's only on the Japanese Blu-ray. Yep. I guess somebody had found a print of that, and then they put it back in. But yeah, I hope they eventually put that inside the every other release. Yep. It's also funny that this movie had like the highest rating at the time. It was basically banned, and then when it was re-released, I think it was like in the 80s or something like that. It got like a G rating or something, like PG or something. It's crazy. So it just goes to show you that. Times change pretty dramatically sometimes.
MPAA.
Yeah, basically. So this one's, I really recommend it. I think if you're trying to get into classic horror movies, this is definitely one of the better ones. And,
yeah, I would agree.
And this is from like the era of, if you're looking for the era of like 50s horror movies, this is before the slasher genre. This is before The Exorcist or anything like that. That kind of really deep-seated horror where it's like a little bit more darker and sinister. If you want that kind of like a little bit of camp, it's like really over the top. This is going to be probably one of the better movies from that time that exemplifies Dracula.
I would definitely agree. You're also going to get some cred points because I feel like not as many people are familiar with the Hammer series.
That's true. You get some serious cred. I think this is also the first movie, as far as I know. I haven't seen all of the Dracula films, but this is the first main one that I remember seeing where they actually introduced the garlic. Yeah. Where instead of wolfsbane, it's garlic. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, oh man, the next movie, they introduced so many things that can kill Dracula. It's basically like 20 minutes of the next movie.
Basically, the next movie, everything kills Dracula.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness. I'm just going to say, because I don't know when we're going to get around to actually talking about Prince of Darkness in depth. But yeah, in Prince of Darkness, there's like this priest guy, and he's like, yes, it's like silver can kill him, sunlight, running water, a stake to the heart, Like, you can't invite him in. Like, it's basically creates all those rules. Like,
garlic, wolfsbane.
Yeah, just everything. It's really funny. Can't see his reflection.
He seems like a kid with like really bad allergies.
I know. That's something we should talk about. Like, all this, it's just so crazy. So, yeah, I totally recommend this one. I recommend it if you're more of a modern moviegoer. Yeah. I recommend this one largely over the 1931 movie.
Ease yourself into the 1931 if you're gonna watch that.
I'm just saying, if you're like if you're just watching Netflix all the time and you don't ever go to the classics section on there, then
if you've never seen an episode of The Twilight Zone,
yeah, that's a good example. But
yeah,
Twilight Zone's so well written,
right?
So yeah, Dracula, or The Horror of Dracula, 1958. Now we're on to Dracula 1992.
Yeah, so this is called Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Yep, it's pretty much the movie that got him out of debt at the time.
Yeah, which seemed to happen a lot with American zoetrope. They, I think Peggy Sue got married, like got him out of debt the first time, like 6 years before this, but then he was back in debt.
You gotta love filmmakers, man.
Right? I know. So I just want to say, like, for a movie made in 1992, this still has a very recognizable cast.
Yeah, really solid cast. You got Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and of course the infamous Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves. Oh, I'm Keanu.
Not quite harm. I mean, do I wish that I didn't get my picture taken and while I was eating a sandwich on the streets of New York? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Gary Oldman, you might not actually recognize him. In fact, Gary Oldman in this movie is Dracula.
Yep.
And probably what he's most famous for today is Commissioner Gordon.
I'm Batman.
He's not Batman, but he's Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movies, the Christopher Nolan ones.
Yes.
But he's obviously done so many other things, and he's an amazing actor. But he plays Count Dracula in this. Winona Ryder plays Mina. Anthony Hopkins is Van Helsing in a very, very weird depiction of Van Helsing.
Keanu's Harker.
Yeah, Jonathan Harker. And it just goes on and on and on. But it's...
Should also be mentioned that this depiction of Dracula is to date the most correct depiction of Dracula according to the book.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird. They do take some liberties with some things. Like they have this whole intro trying to explain how Dracula came to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest
liberty they take is just explaining how and where he came from.
But I think for a modern audience, it made sense because I think people would be like, well,
why does he exist?
Yeah, why is Dracula so powerful? Like, what happened, you know? And so they do this whole thing of like, yeah, he basically scorns God and
for his wife dying.
Yeah,
that basically gets copied in the later horrible Draculas that have come out.
Yeah, so they add in that, but then for everything else, I mean, it's pretty close.
Well, and it's also that storyline is brought from the original, where the story of Dracula comes from, which is Vlad the Impaler. So they kind of mix like the original folklore of Vlad the Impaler with the novel Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Yep.
As far as most of the other stuff, it goes pretty accurately from the book.
Yeah.
And it works in some ways, but it doesn't in others. And one of the ways I'll say is that the pacing of this movie is a little weird.
Yeah.
And like basically because they're trying to follow the format of the book, it jumps around a little bit.
It does. Yeah.
And just trying to keep track of it is a little confusing, but
doesn't seem like Keanu's there for months and months.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. Is that Jonathan Harker or Keanu?
I'm just gonna call him Keanu for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it seems like he's just gone for like a really long time. Like,
I'm Keanu Reeves.
And in the book he is, but for this it seems like wait, how long has he been in this castle? You know,
I'm just gonna address why we keep saying Keanu like that. We have a very solid all-star cast here, and Keanu is just kind of thrown into the mix, and he doesn't really seem to fit very well.
Yeah. I guess we should get on to the performances of this because it is really the most interesting point of this movie. You have like this all-star cast, right? Like
Gary Oldman is amazing as Dracula.
Yeah, Gary Oldman's amazing as Dracula. The costume is god awful for Dracula.
Yeah,
he has like this weird, like white, poofy.
He looks like he's He looks like he's the emperor in Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. It's funny because this costume is like infamously bad. Like tons of other books and other things like reference how bad this costume is. In fact, when we saw, I think it was Hotel Transylvania 2,
yep,
the human guy's costume is like the Dracula from this movie, and everybody's like, why does it look like he has a butt on his head? Like, or something like that. And yeah, it's just really,
he's got Princess Leia buns.
Yeah, it's really bad. But his performance is amazing. I mean, he's a really, really creepy, really basically
and when he becomes younger Dracula, he looks much better.
Oh, yeah, so much more. And he's and even that way, he's the best of both worlds, right?
Yep.
When he's actually Dracula,
yep,
he is like this very creepy, sinister. You really can't tell what he's doing sort of character.
Like licks the blood off of Jonathan's. When he's cutting himself, shaving himself, he cuts himself, and he's like, wipes off and like licks the blood off his finger.
Too. Does it so well. Then when he becomes young, he's so suave. You know, he seems like such a ladies' man and everything. And so he does both of those really, really well. And it's great. Like, Gary Oldman is a great Dracula.
He's like wooing Mina while Jonathan's away, and
and Mina too. Okay, I love Winona Ryder. Like, yep. I think that, I don't know. Have we reviewed a Winona Ryder movie on the podcast?
We haven't yet. I don't believe.
Wow. Yeah. Winona Ryder is amazing. I love Winona Ryder.
She's a very talented actress, and I do love her in this role.
Yeah. She's really good. She's not the strongest, obviously, but like, she does what she's supposed to.
She plays a good Mina.
Exactly.
She plays the best Mina I've seen. Like,
well, yeah, I guess that's true. Not so much competition, but yeah, I get what you're saying. And of course, Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing is awesome. Like,
very, very Van Helsing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Keanu's just bad, man. He's just,
it's not like he doesn't literally sound like he just came off the set of Point Break, but he just seems like he's very lost and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do in this film. He just feels very out of place, and it's very evident that he's not a classically trained actor.
Yeah, it's because you have Gary Oldman like really acting and really getting in the character, and then all of a sudden Keanu's like, he's like, what do you think about this, Haka? And he's like, I think it's good.
I've seen many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
Like...
Yeah, all of his lines are very short, and like Gary Oldman will deliver like this great speech that Keanu Reeves like replies with like a 4-word sentence.
Yeah, and Francis Ford Coppola has come out and said that the reason he cast Keanu Reeves in this movie is because he needed this movie to be a success.
Yeah, and so he wanted a teenage heartthrob to be in it.
Yeah, and so that's where Keanu comes from into Dracula.
Little did he know that this would be the critique of his movie.
Right, yeah. But it did make a lot of money. It basically saved his company.
There's also a lot of sex in this movie. I feel like that helped.
A lot of sex, yeah. So, as far as all this, we'll get into like the sets and kind of the aesthetics and everything. The sets and all that are really elaborate. I mean, really insanely elaborate. And
the costumes, aside from Dracula, are great.
Yeah, exactly. They're all really almost like steampunkish. I mean, the way that they look. I mean, because they kind of have like a lot going on.
Yeah,
and just like the sort of backgrounds and all the imagery and everything. And also, I want to say that a lot of the special effects in this are actually done in camera and practically. Yeah. So there's like a part where he's reading like a book.
Yeah,
and so instead of it being like CG, like there's like the lettering comes up on like Keanu's face.
Yep,
and they actually projected it and then did like a background for like rear projection for the bus. I mean, not the bus, the train. And it's just like a ton of stuff. In fact, you can actually watch, there's like a whole documentary on the making of this movie. It's pretty interesting.
Yep.
Because Francis Ford Coppola was like, no, I don't want to do like crappy CG. I want it to be practically done. And they said, you can't. And he's like, no, we can. So we're going to do it.
Yep.
And it holds up a lot better than if they'd done CG.
But a lot of CG Draculas now, and they're all pretty bad.
They're all pretty bad. The sets, everything's just so good, and but some of the scenes are pretty, graphic, I would say. Like,
Lucy gets like raped by Dracula as a wolf man.
Yeah, instead of turning into an actual wolf, like, you know, like a wolf, he turns into like this weird werewolf thing.
Yeah.
And rapes Lucy, and it shows like literally like him like thrusting into her.
And, you know, tops open, boobs hanging out, you know.
Yeah, so there's definitely some sexual things. And there's like the female vampires.
Yeah, they're like going to give Jonathan an implied blowjob.
Yeah. So there's definitely some sexual things in this. The blood, I don't remember it being super graphic as far as I can remember. I mean, there's definitely some moments, but...
Yeah. You see blood, but this movie isn't like blood splattered or anything.
It's more about all the other stuff going on.
It's really about the story, like the actual story of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I think, to its credit, this is what this film does best, is it depicts the book very well. And I almost feel like it's not worth explaining. Like, if you haven't read Dracula, like, should we explain the plot?
I mean... I don't think it's super necessary at this point. I mean,
okay, 2-minute summary, less than 2-minute summary of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Jonathan Harker goes to see Dracula. He's going to do some real estate crap. Dracula is trying to secure a bunch of buildings in England. He's going to like build an empire or something. Yeah, ships a bunch of his dirt over so he can live in England.
Yes,
he's keeping Jonathan captive. Jonathan's like going nuts in there. Meanwhile, he's also like kind of in England. He's like going back and forth. He's wooing Mina. Mina's like falling in love with him. Then Jonathan finally comes back and he's like all freaked out and shit. And Mina's like trying to hide her relationship with Dracula. And Lucy gets raped and killed by... Well, she didn't get killed by Dracula, but she gets raped by him and turned into a vampire. And then they kill Lucy.
Yep.
Then they pretty much spend the rest of the movie trying to kill Dracula. Yeah. And Mina also turns into a vampire, and they do eventually kill or deliver the fatal blow to Dracula. Mina kind of like carries him away and like holds him while he dies. And like kind of, it's implied that he has redemption so he can go to heaven or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the plot.
Yeah.
It's hard to say which one I recommend most. I mean,
if you really, really need a modern film, I would say go with this one.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the same draw to me, at least in my movie-going taste.
No, I understand that, and that's why I like the Hammer horror film the most of these three. But I think that a lot of people are probably going to identify with this film more.
Yeah, I think that's true just because of the way that it's edited and all the effects are done. Like, you don't have to kind of go into a mindset to watch the movie. You can just put it on and it's modern.
It's also much more about the love story than necessarily the horror aspect.
It's more spelled out for people.
Yeah.
There's no implications.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yep.
And I would say if you're actually going to buy this version, you can find DVDs everywhere.
Yeah. I just picked up a copy of this couple weeks ago that had all the behind the scenes footage on it for like $5. So yeah, it's definitely, you can easily find this movie.
Yeah. And it's tons of special features and audio commentaries and all this stuff. So yeah, this has been GothCast episode 31. I'm Dr. Sanders.
I'm Robbie Gore.
And GothCast is brought to you in part by the Belfry Network.
Belfry is a network of both podcasts and blogs and YouTube channels where you can find lots of Gothic material. Whether you're a newcomer to Goth or a veteran of the community, you are bound to find something there for you. There's virtually anything you want to know or see about Goth. We have our website, which is gothcastradio.com. No www, because why would we do that? We have our Facebook, which is GothCast. We have our Instagram, again, just GothCast. We have our YouTube channel, GothCast /video. And, of course, we have our email, which is gothcastradio@gmail.com. And you can always reach us at any of these mediums. We're always happy to respond to comments or requests or, you have anything to say to us, we're glad to talk to people.
Yeah. And, thanks for listening.
Oh, we also have a Tumblr.
Oh, we also have Tumblr.
Keep forgetting that.
Yeah, gothcast.tumblr.com.
Yep.
All right. And so thanks for listening. Stay spooky.